Random House Audio presents Hide by Lisa Gardner. Read for you by Maggie-Meg Reed. My father explained it to me the first time when I was 7 years old. The world is a system. School is a system. Neighborhoods are a system. Towns, governments, any large group of people. For that matter, the human body is a system enabled by smaller biological subsystems. Criminal justice? Definitely a system. The Catholic Church? Don't get him started. Then there's organized sports, the United Nations, and of course, the Miss America pageant. You don't have to like the system, he lectured me. You don't have to believe in it or agree with it, but you must understand it. If you can understand the system, you will survive. A family is a system. I'd come home from school that afternoon to discover both of my parents standing in our front room. My father, a professor of mathematics at MIT, was rarely home before 7. Now, however, he stood next to my mother's prized floral sofa with 5 suitcases stacked neatly by his feet. My mother was crying. When I opened the front door, she turned away as if to shield her face, but I could still see her shoulders shaking. My father spoke first. You need to go into your room. Pick 2 things, any 2 things you want, but hurry, Annabelle. We don't have much time. Of all the moments in my past, this is the one I would most like to have back. I remember making a positively agonizing choice between my favorite stuffed dog and my newest treasure, a bridal-dressed Barbie. I went with my dog, Boomer, then grabbed my cherished baby blankie, dark pink flannel with a light pink satin trim. Not my diary. Not my stash of silly, doodle-covered notes from my best friend Dori Petrocelli. Not even my baby album, which would have at least given me photos of my mother for all the years to come. I was a young, frightened child, and I behaved childishly. I followed my mother to the car, Boomer under my arm, blankie clutched in both hands. We took our usual places, my father in the driver's seat, my mother riding shotgun, me in the back. My father backed our little Honda out of the drive. Wave at the neighbors, he instructed. Pretend everything is normal. That's the last we ever saw of our little oak-dotted cul-de-sac. A family is a system. We drove to Tampa. My mother had always wanted to see Florida, my father explained. Wouldn't it be nice to live amid palm trees and white sandy beaches after so many New England winters? Since my mother had chosen our location, my father had picked our names. I would now be called Sally. My father was Anthony, and my mother Claire. Isn't this fun? A new town and a new name. What a grand adventure. But we didn't live amid palm trees and white sandy beaches. My parents never spoke of it, but as an adult looking back, I realize now that a PhD in mathematics couldn't very well pick up where he left off, especially under an assumed identity. Instead, my father got a job driving taxis. Still, I think my parents were happy in Florida, or at least determined. My mother decorated our apartment. My father resumed his hobby of sketching. Until the day I came home from school to find suitcases packed, faces grim. No need to ask this time. I went into my room on my own, grabbed Boomer, found my blankie, then retreated to the car and climbed in the back. It was a long time before anyone said a word. A family is a system. To this day, I don't know how many cities we lived in, or how many names I assumed. My childhood became a blur of new faces, new towns, and the same old suitcases. We would arrive, find the cheapest one-bedroom apartment. My father would set out the next day, always coming home with some kind of job, photo developer, McDonald's manager, sales clerk. My mother would unpack our meager belongings. I would be shuffled off to school. She made it until I was 14. Kansas City. We'd lasted 9 months. My father had risen to manager in the automotive department of Sears. I was thinking of going to my first dance. I came home. My mother, Stella she was called then, was face down on the sofa. No amount of shaking woke her up. I have a vague memory of cops coming, EMTs. I watched them remove her body, saw the empty orange prescription bottle slip out of her pocket. One of the officers picked it up. He gave me a pitying look. My father arrived soon after. "You understand, we can't tell them anything," he kept saying over and over again, once we were alone. "You understand, we have to be very careful. I don't want you saying a word, Cindy, not one word. This is all very, very tricky." I found him crying later, curled up on the sofa, holding my mother's tattered pink robe. He couldn't stop. He sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. That was the first night my father slept in my bed. I know what you're thinking, but it wasn't like that. A family is a system. We waited 3 months for my mother's body. The state wanted an autopsy. I never did understand it all, but one day we had my mom back. We accompanied her from the morgue's office to the funeral home. She was put in a box labeled with someone else's name, then sent into the fire. My father purchased 2 small glass vials that dangled from chains, one for him, one for me. "This way," he said, "she can always be close to our hearts." Leslie Ann Granger. That was my mother's real name, Leslie Ann Granger. My father filled the vials with ashes, and we put them around our necks. The rest of her, we turned loose into the wind. We did better in Seattle, each in our own way. My father returned to Sears, and without ever disclosing that he'd worked at one before, was taken to be a complete natural who flew up the managerial ranks. I enrolled in yet another overcrowded, underfunded public school, where I disappeared into the nameless, faceless, B-average masses. Except this time I had my hair chopped off, and I bought new clothes, and I started spending every Monday night at the local church's soup kitchen. School requirement, I told my father. And there happened to be a nice young man who also volunteered there. Brown hair, brown eyes, Matt Fisher. Matt took me to the movies. I don't remember what was playing. I was aware of his hand on my shoulder, the sweaty feel of my own palms, the hitch to my breath. After the movies, we went for ice cream. It was raining. He held his coat over my head. And then, tucked inside his cologne-scented jacket, he gave me my first kiss. I floated home, arms wrapped around my waist, dreamy smile upon my face. My father greeted me at the front door. 5 suitcases loomed behind him. "I know what you've been doing," he declared. He was gone when I got up in the morning. He returned around 12, slapping the fake ID into my hand. "And I don't want to hear it about the names," he said, as I arched a brow at my new identity as Tanya Nelson, daughter of Michael. Trying to get paperwork at a moment's notice already set me back $2,000. "But you picked the names. They were all the guy could give me." "But you brought home the names," I insisted. Fine, whatever." He already had a suitcase in each hand. I stood firm, arms crossed, face implacable. "You picked the names. I picked the city. Once we're in the car." "Boston," I said. His eyes went wide. I could tell he wanted to argue. But rules are rules. A family is a system. When you have spent your life running from the bad thing, you have to wonder what it will feel like one day when it finally catches you. I guess my father never had to know. The cops said he stepped off the curb and the speeding taxi killed him instantly. Sent his body soaring 20 feet through the air. His forehead connected with a metal lamppost, caving in his face. I was 22. Finally done slogging through an endless procession of schools. I worked at Starbucks. I walked a lot.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?